Welcome to episode 9 of the Ask the Law Firm Seller Show. My name is Jeremy Poock, and I lead Senior Attorney Match. Today's Ask Show will feature two segments, a Q&A segment and Poock's Post. So let's jump right into the first segment, Q&A. Our first question today is, why are today's senior attorneys tired of running their law firms? We are hearing this more and more from today's senior attorneys, that is, attorneys that have practiced for more than 30 years, that they're telling us that they're just tired. And so we've given a lot of thought to, like, why are we hearing from senior attorneys that they're tired? And there's really three reasons for why senior attorneys today are expressing their tiredness, their exhaustion. The first reason is that we're coming out of COVID, right? We're post COVID at this point, but COVID certainly thrust us all as small business owners, and that's who we're mostly working with, small business owner law firms, where that small business owner senior attorney survived COVID in terms of a fight or flight period of 2020, 2021, 2022. How is the business going to survive? I need to work really hard to make sure that I make a living, that attorneys that work with me are doing okay, as is the para staff. Now that we're post COVID and we're filming this in 2024, what we're hearing from senior attorneys is, wow, I still need to make payroll every 2 weeks. I've got a lease or mortgage to pay that comes up once a month. And well, maybe next year I can finally start to slow down. And those thoughts in the post-COVID era just lead to many senior attorneys just feeling a sense of being tired. The second reason why senior attorneys are expressing today that they feel tired as they're running their law offices is because they are either realizing or still just hoping that their would-be internal successor will walk down the hall on any given afternoon or morning and say, hey, now's the time. I want to sit down and have the conversation with you about purchasing the practice. And in reality, most internal successors whom senior attorneys hired as their key employees, they really don't want to purchase your law practice. They can't afford to, and really, they just want to have a job. And what that leads to from a senior attorney standpoint is just being tired from the standpoint of having to not only manage the office, but in large part be responsible for continuing to generate the revenues, that is, to bring in new clients so that those would-be internal successors can continue working. And hence, senior attorneys are just tired from having to continue to run the office, manage the office, and develop the business for those key employees, those would-be internal successors who really don't want to purchase your practice, to keep them hard at work to keep the operation going. The third reason why senior attorneys today are tired, that third reason why senior attorneys today are tired when it comes to running their offices, is that the world has changed. We're living in the post 2020 era, but let's look first of all of how most senior attorneys, that is, attorneys that have practiced for more than 30 years, most of those senior attorneys built their businesses, built their books of business in the pre Google 1.0, what we call word of mouth era. And during that word of mouth era, senior attorneys built their goodwill, their reputations by doing a significant amount of in person networking, non digital thought leadership like leading CLEs, writing articles, sponsoring events, and doing pre what we call Y2K advertising of placing ads in newspapers, publications, the yellow pages, perhaps on TV, perhaps on radio as well. Well, we're now in what we call the 3.0 digital era. And in the 3.0 digital era, the world has absolutely changed in terms of how clients are finding their lawyers and how attorneys and law firms are investing to attract the attention of new clients. In the post 2020 3.0 digital world, Google is both king and queen. We are saying that Uncle Google is America's greatest referral source for lawyers. Uncle Google is also becoming America's greatest rainmaker for developing business for attorneys and law firms. And for those senior attorneys that are not investing in that multi channel digital marketing, it's becoming even harder to develop business. And hence, why senior attorneys are tired in this 3.0 digital era because their thoughts at this point are, wow, I am working even harder than I worked pre 2020 because it's becoming even harder to develop new business. They're wondering, when can I slow down? I wish that I could just take a 2 week vacation. And then every 2 weeks and once a month, they're reminded on a 2 week basis that they've got to still make payroll. And once a month, they've got to pay rent or make a mortgage payment. And hence, senior attorneys are just tired in terms of continuing to run the business. So, what are the choices that senior attorneys have in terms of that being tired in the post 2020 era? What choices do senior attorneys have about what they can do with respect to their practices? And there's three choices. So, one choice is to maintain their status quo. Okay, the status quo was much easier to maintain in the pre 2020 era when we would talk with our clients about, okay, well, if today's like yesterday and tomorrow we figure is going to be like today, well, then why make change? The issue is that post 2020, for senior attorneys that are leading their law firms, generating new business has become much more difficult because your competitors, often your younger competitors, or have entered into the digital marketing scene. They are digitally marketing for clients primarily via Google. And by maintaining that status quo, what we're seeing is that revenues for senior attorney led firms are actually going down because you're not generating typically as many new clients as you did in yesteryear. And there's also the chance of what we call a random Tuesday event. Examples of random Tuesdays are when your would be internal successor, that is your key lawyer employee who you wish would take over your practice, but really doesn't want to purchase your practice, walks down the hall after many years of you employing this attorney or attorneys and walks down the hall and says, I just needed to take a new job and I'm giving you either 2 weeks or 4 weeks notice. Another random Tuesday is an unforeseen health, mental or physical health occurrence or premature death. In both of those situations, the random Tuesday that involves health or let's say death or the loss of a key employee, the revenues in the firm can absolutely plummet as a result, and the value of a firm can go down. Second option is for senior attorneys to consider just jumping into that proverbial pool, okay? Not just dipping the toe in the water, but jumping in to how law firms develop business post 2020. Okay. And by jumping into that water, what that consists of is investing significantly in Google, right? We all aspire to be on the first page of Google when clients are searching for the types of legal services that your office provides. It means embracing and developing a social media strategy, multiple forms of social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads, X, which used to be Twitter, Instagram, okay? Investing significantly in your website, including reaching out to former satisfied clients of yours, current satisfied clients of yours, and obtaining Google reviews from them, soliciting those Google reviews from them, because today's clients, when they go on your website, they want to see a high number of Google reviews the same way like when we go to hotels and restaurants and buy items, we're reading the Google reviews. Well, guess what? Clients are reading Google reviews as well. And so if you want to be building your business digitally today, absolutely need those Google reviews. It's important to also embrace audio visual. Start a podcast, start publishing videos on YouTube, because just as we watch our phones all day, every day, in terms of watching videos, clients also want to learn from their lawyers. They want to know, like, and trust their attorneys before they even meet them by watching them on YouTube. And then there's the old school methods of continuing to be just out and about, handing out your business cards like you did in yesteryear. In reality, most senior attorneys today will not embrace full-fledged multi-channel digital marketing. It's tough. And in reality, also, it's not going to be your niece or your grandchild that's going to get you into that digital age. It's going to have to be a significant investment in a marketing company that will help you develop business post 2020 via multi-channel digital marketing. The third option that senior attorneys have when it comes to, well, I'm tired of running my business and I want and need change. This is the option that we really recommend to senior attorneys in the early part of the mid 2020s, is to seriously consider joining a growing law firm that has embraced multi-channel digital marketing, that they want and need what you have developed over the course of your career, which is that all important client list and referral source list, what we call collectively the book of business, the subject matter knowledge and practice areas that you and your staff, including your would be internal successors, what they have developed from a subject matter knowledge standpoint, that tremendous goodwill that you've developed in your community, state, regionally, sometimes even nationally or internationally, and the digital value. Senior attorneys today in their offices and their staffs are sitting on treasure troves of digital content that growing law firms want and need. And in this option, we're really saying that the reality of what senior attorneys can realize by joining growing law firms is to travel from being tired to being inspired. Inspired means joining a growing law firm, being surrounded by younger, hungry attorneys that want and need what you have. We hear from our clients often. They're just inspired by the younger attorneys that they work with. Literally got an email in the last couple of days from a client of mine, and she wrote to me that the associate that she's now working with at the firm that she joined, that growing firm that she joined, is just a blessing to her because he wants to learn from her. She wants to delegate to him, and the client's benefit. And then after that, inspired is retired. Okay, is that you can actually retire from practicing law and accomplish the three wins of what we really try to deliver to our clients, which is the win for a senior attorney to be able to monetize their practice. The second win, which is really significant, is for your clients to have capable successor counsel to continue to represent them for years to come. And the third win is for the growing law firms. Those growing law firms, again, they want and need what today's senior attorneys have. Okay, so for our second question today, our second question is, what will the market for selling personal injury law firms look like by 2030? Okay, so we give a lot of thought to the personal injury law space. A particular reason why is because personal injury law attorneys and the owners of PI firms, they've embraced digital well before 2020. And personal injury law firms have also, as a result of embracing digital, and when I say digital, I mean multi-channel digital marketing, okay, to be able to get the attention of today's consumers of legal services, that is clients. To gain that attention, we need to reach out to clients digitally, and personal injury law firms, they have begun and have really started to develop and have developed law firm brand equity, which is significantly different than the goodwill of a particular attorney. Okay, law firm brand equity has really four feeders to it. The first is the digital presence itself. That is recognizing that you really, in today's post 20 marketplace, you can't just have a website. You need to have digital presence from a multi channel standpoint on multiple areas of social media, as well as podcasts and vodcasts, and to the extent that there are ads that are the ads that appear in radio and TV, as well as some personal injury law firms, as we all see when we're traveling down the highways in America, have billboards. That leads into the brand awareness. Okay, the digital presence and multi-channel digital marketing. That leads to brand awareness, that people in their given communities are recognizing personal injury law firm brands. And then there's trade names. Many firms today are adopting either singular surnames for the names of their law firms or actually adopting trade names themselves. And then the fourth feeder to law firm brand equity is quality perception. The major essence of quality perception are Google reviews. Okay, and we're seeing, and the consumers are absolutely seeing, that when they're going on to personal injury law firm sites and seeing firms that have hundreds of five-star Google reviews, some even having thousands of five-star Google reviews, that quality perception is huge. Just the same way, like if I want to stay at a certain hotel, if I want to go to a certain restaurant, if I want to buy a certain pair of sneakers, and I see hundreds or thousands of Google reviews in support of that item that I want to either purchase, consume, rent, whatnot, and I see that there are that many Google reviews, I'm going to think, wow, this has high quality. And as a result, these four components of law firm brand equity, they are leading personal injury law firms today to develop real law firm brand equity. So now let's look at some of the leaders in the personal injury law space. What we're showing here is that in September 2023, Hennessy Digital published America's most Googled personal injury law firms. And we really look at this as an indicator for where the personal injury law firm space is going in terms of the importance of brand equity. It is no surprise that America's most Googled personal injury law firm is Morgan and Morgan. The big surprise, though, out of this report that Hennessy Digital published is just how far ahead of the pack that Morgan and Morgan is. What this report is showing is that every month, approximately 267,000 people are searching for Morgan and Morgan via Google. That is a five-fold amount ahead of its next closest, most Googled PI firm, which is Ben Crump, tremendous attorney, well marketed, but Morgan and Morgan is just so far ahead of the pack. Nonetheless, like, what does that mean? It means that Morgan and Morgan is absolutely getting the attention of today's consumers of personal injury law. What does it also mean? It means that the competitors in the marketplace in every state and regionally and nationally are going to be playing a catch-up game to Morgan and Morgan for consumers to be attracted to their brands as well. Now let's bring this to sales. Okay, as we are considering the sales of personal injury law firms and projecting towards 2030, as personal injury law firms are developing brand equity, they are absolutely in what we call law firm sales 2.0, which most law firms today are not in law firm sales 2.0 yet, because law firm sales 2.0 is based upon a fixed price that comes from the digital value and the brand awareness that PI firms are developing. That is, those firms that are listed in the Hennessy Digital top 50 of most Googled branded firms, they all have real digital value, real brand awareness, real data analytics that show that clients are coming to their law firms because of the brand and not just because of the given personal injury law attorney at that firm. In terms of what it is that today's personal injury law firm owners can be doing as they're considering the sales of their law practices, looking towards 2030 and thinking that we are now in and knowing that we are now in the mid 2020s, as personal injury law firms are seeing this list of the top 25 most Googled personal injury law firms in the United States, what can they be doing now in the mid 2020s? And really, how did those firms that are listed among that top 25, how did they get to that place? And the way that those firms got to where they are in terms of the branded personal injury law firm today, if we look under the hood at how personal injury law firms are developing brand equity, it's because of a realization that the consumer attention for how consumers look for lawyers today has shifted post 2020. Consumers today are looking for their lawyers online. We are often saying that Uncle Google has become America's greatest referral source because just as we Google for everything and anything, today's would-be clients, they're also Googling for their attorneys. In terms of how this is playing out from a revenues standpoint for today's personal injury law firms. And let's focus now on senior attorney led personal injury law firms. What we're seeing in the mid 2020s is that as multi channel digital marketing has entered into the space and has made the space for attracting clients to personal injury law firms uber competitive in terms of how the clients are going onto Google and they are looking for PI attorneys to hire. What we're seeing for today's senior attorney led PI firms is that their revenues are actually going down. Because if you're not attracting new clients, because you're not investing the significant amounts to attract those new clients to your firms, then the revenues are actually going to go down as the 2020s continue to progress and as your competitors are developing more and more brand equity, brand value in the marketplace. So, in terms of what can you do about that? What we see and what we recommend to senior attorney led PI firms is that while we are now in what we call law firm sales 1.0, while PI attorneys that are not committed and aren't going to necessarily commit to multi-channel digital marketing, that law firm sales 1.0, this offers a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of the client list and referral source list that you have developed over the course of your career, no matter what. Even if your revenues may be going down, even if you're not developing as many clients as you did in yesteryear, a growing PI firm wants and needs your client list, your referral source list, the goodwill that you have developed over the course of your career, the subject matter knowledge that you've developed, and really what we call the treasure trove of digital value that you're just sitting on because you've got all this knowledge that you share with your clients, that you share with defense counsel, that you share with judges and juries. Well, growing law firms need that digital value, that content that you have to play out for their multi channel digital marketing. And in terms of how sales happen in law firm sales 1.0, what we're seeing is earnout payments, that is senior attorney PI attorneys that are paid as referring attorneys for a negotiated number of years. Because for those senior attorney PI attorneys that aren't going to invest in multi-channel digital marketing, and as their client lists and referral source lists actually decrease as the 2020s progress, their ability to earn as much as possible in this law firm sales 1.0 will decrease as this decade continues to progress. Okay, so for today's second segment, our Pook's Post. Today's Pook's Post is the writing is on the wall. The writing is on the wall about digital marketing impacting the value of senior attorney led firms. That is for today's Pook's Post. The writing is on the wall that digital marketing is impacting the value of senior attorney led law firms. And I'll just say it a third time that for today's Pook's Post, the writing is on the wall about digital marketing impacting the value of senior attorney led law firms. So let's look at that. That is, we absolutely see in the early part of the mid 2020s that the writing is on the wall for today's senior attorneys. That is, for today's senior attorneys who are attorneys that have practiced more than 30 years. When it comes to business development, today's clients search for their lawyers online, which is markedly different than the pre Google era. In the pre Google era, which is really how and when most of today's senior attorneys built their books of business. And that era was really defined by here's my business card, right? In that pre Google era, senior attorneys handed out, that is today's senior attorneys handed out thousands upon thousands of business cards. They built their reputations on a word of mouth manner, so that when people were looking for attorneys and they would ask their friends, their colleagues, their relatives of who do you know, they would say, oh, well, you should contact this attorney, or let me give you the card for that attorney, or meet the attorney at a given event. And here's my card. Please feel free to give me a call. The writing on the wall today is that clients don't even ask for business cards, because they just go straight to Google, other forms of digital content that they'll search for, and they'll search for the best fill in the blank attorney near me. Hence why so few of us are reordering our business cards as regularly as we did in that pre 2020, really the pre Google era. So now let's look at that just a little bit differently. What we're seeing in the marketplace is that post 2020, there is an ongoing shift in consumer behavior. That is, that the law firms that are investing in multi channel digital marketing, they are attracting more clients, because those clients by and large are going to Google to be searching for their lawyers. Then they're also seeing whether and how their lawyers are participating in, and how active they are among various different social channels. LinkedIn is an example. How often are they posting? What type of content are attorneys and law firms posting to LinkedIn? What Facebook groups do they belong to? What types of YouTube videos are they publishing, where they can watch those videos and really get to know, like, and trust their attorney before they would even meet that attorney? They want to see and are reviewing the Google reviews of lawyers and law firms today. And then when they want to meet with their lawyers, they don't want to get into their car. For as convenient as that was in yesteryear, it's a heck of a lot more convenient today to meet via video platform such as Zoom, or Teams. And for those attorneys that are maintaining only a website only approach, and many of today's senior attorneys continue to maintain that website only approach when it comes to digital, they're just attracting less clients than they did in yesteryear. It's important also to just consider, how else from a societal standpoint, okay, has that consumers have migrated to convenience, right? That is, as we're considering how the legal industry continues to shift digitally, let's just take a moment and think of three, and really think and speak about three non-law examples of how consumers have migrated to convenience in this digital world that we've all been a part of for 30 plus years at this point. And those three examples are Amazon, right, which surpassed the revenues of Sears in 2011. Uber. Uber surpassed ridership of the New York City yellow taxi in 2017. Okay, I mean, what is more iconic than hailing a taxi cab in Midtown Manhattan? But now it's just so much more convenient to just go onto our Uber app, order the Uber, know what type of car, know the license plate, know where that taxi cab driver, where that Uber driver is going to be picking us up from. And Netflix, right? It was so convenient in yesteryear to go down to your local Blockbuster to rent a video. Well, today we can just go on to our Netflix app, or we can use our remote control at home. And as Netflix's motto says, watch what you want when you want. And just from a comparison sake, right, the Blockbuster motto was be wind and be kind and rewind. So in terms of the legal industry, right, as we're thinking about the marketplace for the legal industry, as this writing is on the wall in terms of how today's would-be clients are searching for their lawyers, that writing on the wall that the consumer behavior has changed, and the consumers today, that is would-be clients, are searching for their lawyers online. What we are absolutely seeing in the mid 2020s is that those senior attorney led firms that are maintaining a website only and are really relying upon that pre-Google era of how they built their practices from a word of mouth standpoint, we're seeing that their revenues are actually going down because if you're not being found by would-be clients, then you're not going to be retained by as many clients and your revenues are actually going to go down. When it comes to senior attorneys that are contemplating the sale of their law practices during the course of this decade, we want to point out that what is it that senior attorneys have that growing law firms, which is primarily the purchaser of today's law firms, it's mostly growing firms that want to be purchasing senior attorney led firms. Well, what is it that senior attorneys have that growing law firms want and need? And what we show here is four components of synergy value. And those four components of synergy value consist of instant client growth, that is that book of business that senior attorneys developed during the pre-Google era. The combined workforce, right? You have at your firm lawyers, support staff, the senior attorney founder or founders themselves. That combined workforce adds to the capacity of legal services that growing law firms can offer to their clients, the clients that a senior attorney brings to a growing law firm, as well as expanding to add new clients to a growing law firm. Third part of synergy value is the cumulative expertise. That is what the lawyers at the firm have developed in multiple, well, not necessarily multiple, but several typically practice areas over the course of their careers, and the marketing value, the content that senior attorneys have to offer. We really call this treasure troves of marketing value that senior attorneys just don't have the time today to be publishing articles to LinkedIn, to be hosting or appearing on podcasts, to be posting to Facebook, to be doing YouTube videos. All of these aspects of multi-channel marketing, digital marketing that just make senior attorneys today just say essentially gavalt, it's too much, right? But when they join growing law firms, those growing law firms want and need that marketing value, that treasure trove of digital content that senior attorneys offer. Now, in terms of timing, let's just look at that book of business, right? When it comes to what growing law firms want and need from today's senior attorney led firms, is that all important book of business that senior attorneys developed over the course of their careers, right? They built a book which consists primarily of clients and referral sources. The but, though, is that as the writing is on the wall, that senior attorneys are not going to attract as many new clients today if they are not investing digitally. If you're not investing digitally and not attracting new clients to your firm via multi channel digital marketing, well, unfortunately, your book of business is going to not replenish as much as it did in yesteryear. And from the standpoint of succession planning for your practice, if your book of business is not filled with clients, filled with referral sources, in reality, your law firm is going to be worth less as more time goes by because you're not replenishing that all important book of business. So when it comes to the writing on the wall, right? The writing is on the wall that today's clients search for lawyers online. The significance of that writing on the wall is that if today's senior attorneys are not attracting as many clients as you did in the pre-Google era, then your law firm is going to lose value over time. The good news for today's senior attorneys is that when we analogize the digital shift in today's consumers to the non-legal industry, the analogy to other businesses that have now gone by the wayside. So the examples that we bring up are Sears and Blockbuster. We just don't go to Sears anymore. We order everything and anything today on Amazon. We don't go to Blockbuster today. Instead, we order and watch our movies and our shows via Netflix and other forms of streaming. Both Sears and Blockbuster, though, They were left with, let's call it inventory, that's just useless. For senior attorneys, though, it's much more analogous to where we are today to Uber and taxi cab medallions when we think about the writing was on the wall, right? We mentioned earlier that Uber surpassed the New York City yellow taxi in 2017. But absolutely for sure, with Uber entering the market in 2009, the writing was on the wall in the early 2010s. If you were a taxi cab medallion and had still value in that medallion, same in a lot of respects for today's senior attorneys, you have books of business. Your book of business may not be replenishing as much as it did in yesteryear. And years from now, as the 2020s progress, your book of business is going to become less valuable. In terms of that writing is on the wall, growing law firms, they want and need your book of business. And when our clients join growing law firms, they actually replenish the value of the book of business, particularly because growing law firms, they do invest in multi-channel digital marketing. They're going to start reaching out to your clients and your referral sources to be able to offer legal services to those clients for whom you would receive credit in terms of law firm sales, because the sales that we structure today are primarily what we call law firm sales 1.0, where senior attorneys are getting paid a percentage of the revenues that come in from that book of business. So in that respect, it's even unlike the taxi cab medallion, right? That is, the taxi cab medallion owner in the early 2010s did much better by selling the medallion before Uber just absolutely fully disrupted the marketplace. The disruption in the legal marketplace today is multi-channel digital marketing. Unlike the decreasing value in the taxi cab medallions, though, when senior attorneys are taking those books of businesses, joining growing law firms, those growing law firms are growing the book all over again, and senior attorneys financially benefit while they are practicing at those firms. And by the way, no longer having to manage your own firm, and they're benefiting from practicing as well as when they retire, and they're able to benefit by sharing in the revenues that come in from that book of business over a negotiated number of years. But we must emphasize that writing is on the wall the same way that Sears saw it, the same way that Blockbuster saw it, the same way that taxi cab medallions saw it. We see it very clearly that in the multi-channel digital marketing era, what we call the 3.0 digital era in the legal industry, for those senior attorneys that are not adopting multi-channel digital marketing, their books of business will decrease in value, as will the eventual sale values of their law firms. And that is today's episode 9 of the Ask the Law Firm Seller Show.